The most common
Yeah.
mistakes of all first-time founders, they build too early and too much before really understanding what's the niche of the customer problem. And you know
Right.
that very well. When you build too early and too much, it's very hard to pivot and it's very hard to be agile and fast.
What you should do is you should use existing models and train them on your data, because if you're
absolutely.
going to develop your own LLMs and you are going to develop your own stuff, that is going to take a lot of time. If you're going to design if you're going to use the existing LLMs or private GPTs, so that will take much less time. Sometimes you get new as well, just
Exactly.
because
So that's where I'm coming in. This is what you lose, but then
Yeah.
you're going to develop new relationship, new
New
friendship.
circle,
You're going
yeah.
to meet other founders, and guess what? 99% of them are going the exact same journey. So it's just an evolution in your life.
Yeah. So your circle becomes change, right? Your circle
becomes
is
more-
changing, and yeah.
So in a way, it becomes narrower in terms of people I see and meet on a regular basis. Try always to keep at least one person who can understand you and you can speak to.
Oh, that is the most important thing, and that is something which I miss the most. That one person. Hello everyone, my name is Ali. I'm the CEO of Al-Burraq Technologies. Today we have another Techstar with us. Sam, how are you doing?
Hi, very good. Thanks for having me in the podcast.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for rescheduling it, because we had some conflict earlier, and I thank you for adjusting your schedule according to that.
Well, managing time and calendar is part of my job.
Okay, that sounds so good. Okay, so Sam, it would be great if you can tell us about yourself and tell us some of the things you have done in the past, so that our audience can connect with you.
I'm an engineer, and back in the days in 2011, I wanted to work on artificial intelligence. Believe it or not, but at the time it was very hard because it was the heat of the financial crisis and all companies were cutting all the AI projects, which sounds ironic today. And I wanted to understand what's going on in the world. What's this financial crisis? Why all companies all across the world are affected? So I became really obsessed by finance and understanding it. And that's how I started to work as a consultant, as a strategy consultant in the financial sector. And then I moved to investment banking, managing all the liquidity and the funding and all the models that the banks use and deploy to optimize their balance sheet. Before that, I really had no clue about how banks made money. And I thought like the biggest source of inequality in the world are people, some people are born rich, some people are born poor. And there was one thing which was really eye-opening after working years in the investment banking. The key and fundamental difference is the approach people have with money.
Okay.
And most people, they manage the money in a backwards-looking way, which means they wait for shit to happen to react and panic, and then they make the worst possible decisions. Whereas banks, their competitive advantage is to develop all the technology to avoid that by being proactive. And the way it looks like is they create lots of financial forecasting models where they try to anticipate all future problems and how they need to position themselves to take advantage of all the future moves in the market, of their future liquidity need, and to basically make sure they will never run out of money. And after I realized that, well, that's where it was a sign for me to leave the corporate world. And I wanted to give that same technology available for people, because people are not managing the money this way and they don't have the technology for it. So that's how I started Nova Money, which now I'm the CEO and co-founder.
That makes sense. And that is an important perspective as well, that how you manage money is very important. And that is what Nova Money is doing, right?
Right. We try to help people make the same switch so that they manage the money in a forward-looking way.
So if I ask you that, if you have to give some tips to the people that these are the key points you have to keep in mind while managing your money, so how would you do that? How would you give them some key points that these are very important things you have to keep in mind while managing your money, and so that you can make more money?
I'll answer you by giving you the example of the most common mistake people make.
Okay.
When people think of the money, they look at the current balance, and let's say they see $2,000, $3,000, and they go to the shortcut of believing, oh, I can afford anything that is $2,000 because I have the money in the bank. What they don't realize is this number is lying to you. It doesn't mean you can spend that, because what you don't see are all the future cash flows that are coming to you. You have the bills, you have the investments, you have the 401k, you have the kids going back to school, etc. You have that this month, but also the next month and in 2 months, etc. And if you don't plan today for all these
Right.
cash requirement in the future, then you run the risk of running out of money at the time you
Right.
expected the least.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why, if you really want to avoid bad surprises and be in control of your finances, you need to have this forward-looking view of
Okay.
everything that's going forward. What do you want to do with your money? How much you want to invest it? How much return do you want to get? What are the commitments today? So and then work backward and say, okay, then it means today, well, out of my $2,000, really, I only have 200 for the weekend.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. But this is something which you can understand, I can understand. But if you are going to explain this to someone very general, right? If you're going to explain it to the general audience, don't you think it's challenging for them to understand this factor? Although it is true that you have a pipeline of to dos, right? And everything needs some money or some investment or something like that. Is that it difficult for a layman to understand that how this is how you have to be managing the money?
Yeah, it's difficult, not per se because it's complex concept. It's
Yeah.
actually quite simple when you hear it in the right way. It's difficult because people are not used to do that.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's
Yes.
like everything. The first time you're going to stretch, the first time you're going to run, like for like even 10 minutes, if you never run in your life, well, it's going to be hard,
Okay.
and your legs are going to hurt and scream. Ah, I'm in pain. And a lot of what we want to do is to close the education gap between all the people like who know how money should be managed. You're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, I am. So we have to learn that, otherwise our companies wouldn't survive. All companies do that,
Right.
all banks do that,
Right.
but no one teaches that to the 99% of the people.
So when you're teaching it to the people, what are the most common challenges you are facing these days?
I'd say that the number one is people like to stick to what they know because it feels comfortable.
Right.
And even if their habits are not working, it's not clear to them that, okay, that's the reason why I always get surprised and get caught off guard by like this debit, this bill, this investment that I can't do. And that's really is the hard part, to help people understand that their problems that they feel actually should have been solved 2 months ago. And if you're
Right.
waiting for you to experience the pain of the problem, well, it's already too late. The only thing that now you can do is fix or prevent the future problems that are going to happen at the end of the month, in next month, etc. So that's a different way of thinking, because what most people are given is distributed by the banks, the credit cards. They're only distributed and given backward-looking views and tracking and charts, where they only look at, okay, this is how much I have spent, this is how much I have today. And
Right.
the challenge is to show them, well, this is a forward-looking view. And actually, instead of looking at how much you have spent, try to play just like with Lego. Try to create your scenarios. What happened if I spend 200 on this weekend, and if I want to invest that much, and if I don't know, I want to make a surprise gift in a month, and see if that works, because that should be like the source of your financial confidence.
Okay. Okay. So if that is one thing, Now, you must have heard some. You must have some funny stories as well while convincing people that they need to use this application because this is useful, right? So
Mhm.
tell us about those stories as well when you are trying to convince someone and they come up with a very funny argument or a silly argument or something like that.
So I wouldn't call them a silly argument. I would just call them lack of financial knowledge and education.
Okay, okay.
And um, one of the most common problem we face is people don't know how much they're creating in net worth each month or how much they're saving.
Hmm, hmm.
And because they don't know, then when we show them like the right figures, they believe it's a bug and they report it as a bug. And sometimes they even argue with me. I'll give you a very simple example that everyone will understand immediately. For a lot of people, if they move $400 on whatever a Roth IRA savings account, in their head this month they have saved $400 or they have invested $400,
Right.
and that's it. But you run your company, so you know that's not how money works. If you want to know what's your profit or loss for the month, you need to look at all the money coming in or the money coming out. Right?
Coming
You don't
out.
just
Yes, yes,
isolate
yes.
one transfer because it's very easy. Oh yeah, I just borrow money and move 400 on a savings account, but the only thing I did was get into more debt,
Right.
and that's actually what millions of people are doing. And they're not doing it because like they want to sabotage their finances. They're doing it because they don't realize, they don't look at their cash flows in this way.
Right.
So while they think they're saving or they're investing or like they're doing whatever YOLO on Robinhood, what they don't realize is they're actually spending more than they earn in a month, which in financial terms, they're cash flow negative.
Okay.
And building your net worth, the fundamental is you have to be cash flow positive on a monthly basis. You have to know your cash flows, and most people don't know what a cash flow view is. And what
Right.
we try to do is give people access to, okay, this view. This is how you manage your cash flow. This is how you go from being cash flow negative to cash flow positive. This is why you thought you were saving this month, but no, nobody's telling you you're destroying your net worth.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, considering all these challenges, all these, by the way, I think that you should be reading your buck sheets in your uh, enjoyment time so that you can enjoy, read them and enjoy more. Okay. So, what do you think are going to be the future plans of Nova Money, considering all these challenges, considering your future plans?
The big thing we have on our roadmap is to develop the AI to explain all these complex financial topics to people in plain English.
And how would
To
you do
explain
that?
them, okay, what's free cash flow? How do you look at your cash flow? What's the difference between, for example, doing budgeting and planning in a forward-looking way? What does that mean if today my balance is positive, but I'm forecasted to be cash flow negative in a month? What do I need to do? What happens if I overspend and I see that my goals or my investment projections are going to be below target? So all of that requires to know some like financial concepts, some basics, and most people don't have it because financial education is not common. So we want to use the AI. We want to create our own LLM to really explain people's situation in the language that they would understand.
Right. So you are going to develop your own LLM, and you have started working on that.
We have started. It's a long journey.
It's a long journey, but I think what you should do is you should use existing models and train them on your data.
Yeah,
Because if you're
absolutely.
going to develop your own LLMs and you are going to develop your own stuff, that is going to take a lot of time. If you're going to if you are going to use the existing LLMs or private GPTs, so that will take much less time. So
Yeah, I
I
think
think,
what most
yeah.
startups do, and if they don't, well, they definitely should, is take as a baseline all the open source LLM, where they have full control
Yeah,
of, they
yeah.
can control the bias, they can control how they're going to answer these kind of questions, and then train it, fine tune them according
Yes,
to like the
yes, yes,
specific
yes.
knowledge and use cases needed for your company.
Right, right. Of course, of course. And then launch it, and then learn more, and do some reinforcement learnings. So that is how you can keep improving the LLM that is going to be used in normal money, right?
Learn, iterate, redo it, the startup
Right,
life.
right, right. That's an ongoing process for us.
It never ends.
Yeah. Okay. So one more thing. How many hours a day or a week you work normally?
Oh.
Normally, in normal conditions.
um, I'm probably not an example. So if you're first time founders, you don't need to copy me. I work about like 14 hours a day,
Okay.
usually 6 to 7 days a week.
6 to 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. Okay. So that means you work a little bit more than me, because normally I'm in the office around 8 a.m. and then leave at 12 or 1. How many hours it becomes? So
Depends on
that
your
is
lunch break.
so that
Do
is
you go
kind
for
of
the gym for
routine.
two
So
hours during the day?
not at all.
But I would
So
say,
even
rather than focusing just on the gross amount of hours, which can be misleading, I like to see things differently. Just look at how many time can you be productive without feeling tired. When do you
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like your
yeah.
quality of work is decreasing, or you're just saturated, or you're getting sick of it? And I'm someone who can focus for 14 hours straight when I like what I'm doing. Obviously, if it's my admin day, I need to do like the bloody paperwork, accounting, etc. I'm not going to do it like 14 hours a day. I'm going to take breaks and do something else in between.
Right, right, right,
But
right.
if whatever you like developing, you like writing, you like setting, if that's your thing and you can do it all day long, then yeah, that's your competitive advantage as a founder.
But but being the founder, sometimes you had to do things, even if you're tired, if you are mentally exhausted. Like yesterday, I was in all day long meetings, and at the end of the day, I had to create some videos, because my BD was asking me that you need to create these videos before you go. Right? I'm going for some conference today, so she said that you have to do it. I was so much exhausted, but I still did that. I messaged her, I'm not satisfied with these, but because you were forcing me, so I've done this. So
You
now
know,
it's your
that's
turn.
one. I think the most sensitive thing as a founder. When is it time to push forward? When is it time to just stop and keep it for the next day?
Yeah, yeah.
Because let's be realistic. When you run a small company, you never have the resources you need. You want like a whole sales team, a whole marketing team, a whole engineering team. You have none of that. So which means you're going to be like the greatest contribution to your company as a early stage founder. And therefore, you need to manage yourself, not just to optimize yourself for the day or for the week, but to optimize yourself for the months and the next month and the year. So there's
Right,
always a
right,
risk
right.
when you overwork yourself. You're going to overproduce and be super productive for the week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe even maximum 3 if you have like incredible stamina. But what you don't see, just creating debt that you're going to pile up and pay for the next months. And that's something I realized with my team. Sometimes we had huge deadline and we needed to make a launch that, sometimes development is hard and it takes longer than expected, but we can't afford to spend the next 6 months, so we had to cut it to cut the scope and everybody work harder so that we can launch in 2 months.
Right, right.
And everyone was working like crazy for 2 months, but it's obvious the next 2 months, like
Who
people are
else can
exhausted.
understand this development cycle better than me? Because we are in the development cycle from last 10 years, right? So who else can understand the pressures? The Sometimes what happens is the launch is within this week or the next day, and there is some kind of problem at that moment. So who else can understand these pressures if not me?
Well, I understand it as well, believe me.
Right,
To
right, right.
anyone who's non-tech, it's hard to understand why all engineering projects they go over time, over budget, because
Mm-hmm.
anything can happen at any time at any line of code, and you
Yeah,
don't know what's going on. And sometimes you can fix it in a matter of minutes if your
right,
eyes
right.
are open. When
Mm,
your
mm,
engineering
mm,
team is tired, they don't see the
mm.
obvious. Their eyes are
Yeah,
physically
yes.
open, but mentally they're blind.
Right, right, right. That makes
And
sense.
I say that to
And
anyone like leading a team of engineering. It's not because people are still like writing code and they look to be productive
mm,
that they don't need to sleep and that they actually are
mm,
productive.
so I tell my people that it is your job to stuck into the issues on the daily basis and get out of it. The problem happens when you're stuck in some kind of issues and you're tired or you are losing your hope. So don't lose hope. Be optimistic and resolve it. Having a bug, having a problem is not an issue. That is your daily routine, right?
Mhm.
So the problem comes when you are saying that okay, this can't be done. So that is the problem.
Yes, and usually it's a sign that you're exhausted. Your mind stopped thinking
Yes.
creatively. It focuses on what cannot be done rather than thinking, okay, what are the 100 other ways to get the
Yeah.
same thing working?
I say that there are 100 ways to do anything and 150 ways not to do. You
That's
decide
experience
whichever way
speaking.
you want to go. I'm telling you, it's been 10 years, right? So we are in this development cycle. In last November, we celebrated our decade. So uh, we are in this cycle of management, code, and all. So
So I have a question for
tough
you.
stories. Yeah, yeah,
Do you
please.
find it easier after 10 years to manage all these engineering projects, or does like the difficulty remain constant?
So difficulty of remaining constant. So I would say that after 10 years, you don't find it difficult to manage the projects, managing engineering teams, manage projects, because now you have dealt with a lot of people, a lot of devs, a lot of engineering teams, that when someone is coming to you, you already know what is in his mind, right? You already know
Hmm.
what is happening, right? So you know the solution already because you have done that in the past, right? So at from that side, it is easy. But after 10 years, I would say challenges becomes different, because now the challenges are regarding scale. That's it. You do not face any challenges of managing people, by people coming in, coming out. Those are not the challenges now. Now the challenges are the scale. You have to be scaling each and every day if you want to maintain yourself as a good company. So that is the challenging thing.
Yeah, and I think it applies very well to founders. The amount of personal
I agree
development
with you.
required to just to be successful is often underestimated by first time founders.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I had an interesting story. I was with one of my trainer, so I was telling him that I'm an introvert and I'm a CEO of a company. What should I do? So he said, Resign." I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay." So I said, "But why?" He said, "If you're a CEO, you have to sell yourself. You have to sell your company. And if you're not talking to people, if you are not pitching yourself, pitching your company, that means you're not doing your job. So it's better you resign from the post and bring someone who can sell your company." I said that makes sense. So from that day, I started talking to people. I started working on my personal development. I started initiating the conversations. So that is how I started my journey of personal development. Before that, I used to work in isolation. My company used to be in the isolation, and we do not reach out to anyone. We say, okay, this is the work we are doing, and we'll do it.
Remaining in the comfort zone.
Yeah. After that, I'm in the public and I'm talking to people and interacting with them.
There are very few founders and CEO who can afford not to put themselves outside. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg could, because he manages to create a product that grew
Yeah.
virally. But for most founders, well, no, you need to kick yourself in the butt and do the
Yeah.
hard thing.
Yeah. There was one interesting conversation I was in. They said that if Steve Jobs, being the CEO of Apple, is selling his small iPhone to the public, what is your problem? You are selling the you are selling more expensive services than him. He's selling a cheaper product, and he's coming in front of the people and telling people that this is the product we are launching. And you are selling an expensive service, and you are saying buy it without your interaction. How can be this possible?
But you know what I realized after a while? There's no such thing as one archetype of what a CEO should do. And I mean, you ask 100 people, and most of them will tell you, yeah, the CEO should be selling, etc. I've met successful CEO who don't sell.
Okay.
I've met successful
Nice.
CEO who just do marketing. I've met successful CEO who just do products. Some people who just do fundraising. Some people who just do internal management. They don't even touch anything in the company, like completely hands off on the execution. I've basically met CEOs who are successful in the company doing the opposite of what common knowledge is.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
So obviously, for most people, well, you need to be selling your company. You need to get out of your comfort zone. But really, the job of a CEO is to design your own job.
Right.
And
Right. Right. Right.
to know how to do the things company needs to do well to exist.
Okay. Okay.
It can be you doing it. It can be a co-founder. It can be any other creative way.
So I also believe in this theory in a way that I believe that every company has a different journey and different trajectory. So you can't replicate these things. So I think this is pretty much the same thing you're talking about, that a CEO has to define himself in the company and his position as well.
Yeah, that's true. All companies are different. It's very, very common and harsh when you try to compare your company to what
Yeah.
you see on TechCrunch from the others. What they launched in 3 months with no product, and then they
Yeah.
raised like 5 million seed money at a 50 million
Yeah.
valuation. Why am I like 200K ARR and I can't do half of that? Every company is
Right. Right.
different.
Right.
Everyone has different starting point. Maybe they knew people that you didn't. Sometimes life is just unfair, and you just need to swallow that.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's go into another topic. Otherwise, we'll keep discussing this, and people will get bored. So you know, right now AI is booming, right? Not right now, from the past many years, right? But right now, what people are facing is the fast pace of AI. The speed of innovation is so high that people are not able to match that at the moment. I'm not talking about future. At the moment, they are not able to match the speed of innovation. Where do you see generative AI in the future, and where do you see how do you see the future of work?
I'm very bullish on generative AI. Even today, Gen AI can take a lot of the high skill and creative work and do it up to average level. It's not replacing a great copywriter. It's not replacing like a great
Okay.
artist, but it can do like mediocre work, which is already amazing. And I think the quantum leap I'm waiting on the Gen AI is once the day they will be able to create neural network for logical reasoning. Because today these are language model. They only predict what the next word. And despite being a language model, they can do already a lot of things and have a lot of verbal thinking. But it's very narrow, limited in how much like you need to babysit the AI and how long the prompt is and how much context you need to give in order to do something well. But I think it will soon be the next revolution, just like computer was an industrial revolution that is completely shifting what society considers to be valuable skills. So I remember when there was Gen AI, all universities were like panicked. Oh, wow, like students now are going to use Gen AI instead of doing the work. Well, when you think of it, when the calculator came in and you just had like to press button to make complex calculation, well, what happened? People just advanced mathematics instead of thinking, oh, it's valuable to do like derivation of a cosinus function. No, you just put it on the on your calculator and you focus on the analysis. You focus on and you go deeper. So I think it's going to create the same shift in what are the skills required in society versus what computer and the machine can do. And
right.
I think the direction is now as human, we need to be even better in terms of critical thinking, in terms of empathy, in terms of understanding context, in terms of linking all of the stuff together, which are the things that computer are not able to do.
I agree with that. That with the, like the example of calculator is perfect. That when the calculator came, now you don't have to multiply, add, anything like that. You don't have to do that, and you shifted yourself toward more complex problems. I agree with that. But with the Gen AI, do you know any problems like that? Those are complex and they are not handled by Gen AI. Like you're talking about empathy. AI is dealing with that. You talk about context. AI can manage the context better than humans, right? So all these applications which you're talking about that we should be focusing, AI is handling those things better. So
it's
do
only
you think
handling
any
them
applications?
if you feed them the right input data.
Yes, of course,
And that's a skill.
Yeah, I agree with that. Bias, right set of data, I agree with that. But let's consider the happy path. Let's not go for the other path, failure path, or so let's go for the happy path and say that we have the right data. We are not biased, which is kind of difficult, right?
It's conceptually
Yeah,
impossible for humans, but let's assume it, okay?
let's assume, right? Because AI is not telling you that you need to be biased. We are we are polluting it, right? So let's consider the happy path and assume that we have the right data. We are not biased. We gave them this information. Don't you think now AI can handle empathy context better than humans?
No. Despite
Okay.
all of that, no.
How?
If you look at the way these language models are constructed, they're not just like learning from the entire web. The way they're constructed is itself a bias.
Right.
So I'm going to explain that. There are people paid a lot of money by all these AI companies, to OpenAI, Anthropic, etc., to handpick what a good answer is, what a bad answer is, how to behave in this situation, how not to behave in this situation.
That is the bias, right?
Inherent
I am
bias
saying
of the model, yes.
Yes, I am saying let's say we have gave them unbiased data. So I am saying let's assume the happy path. My question is a little
Well,
bit
I don't know
different.
if I would call it happy or utopic part.
You can say that what we should.
Well, okay,
I'm thinking about some right word.
in a world where all these language models were constructed free of any bias,
Yeah.
let's describe that utopy.
A world that
Yes,
never
they would be.
exists.
I think they would be able to handle context probably better than human because they can absorb lots of information. But I think that would be only like on you're going to end up with mediocre code generation. And that's going to be an inherent limitation of the AI. Because maybe the people who found like the best and most optimal algorithm just did it in a private source, which is going to be hidden and not accessible as a training data to any AI.
Right.
And it's the same for context. And it's the same like if you want to reach the highest level of creativity and the highest level of finding like problems and business opportunities, you need to see things that maybe no one else sees and no one else understands, and you're the only one who can do that. And once you do, then, well, that's the first step of being a founder. So I think there's always going to be an inherent limitation to what AI can do.
Okay. So let's assume that people do have some skills to switch so that they do not get jobless. I'm so much worried about it. I think that
I don't think they will get jobless. I think there will be a transition period.
Yes, I agree with that. There will be a transition period. I believe in that. And I believe that once in the coming years, businesses are going to decide how they are going to apply AI in their routine use cases. And that is going to define the skill set which will be needed in the future. I think that is going to be the transformation, because right now I do not know about any skill. You can say I'm accepting it bluntly that I do not know about any skill that I think will not be replaced by the AI. Let it be neural networks, let it be Gen AI itself, let it be empathy, context. I think these things will be done by the AI itself, and some
leadership
skill sets. Yes,
I don't think you can replace leadership.
Yes. So my job is safe, right? I'm getting mean.
To all the founders listening to us, the world may collapse and be replaced by machines, but your job is safe.
Right. Yes. and to be very frank, I'm in a services business, so even my job is useless because nobody's asking for the service, right? Okay, so let's move on to another discussion from this one as well. What do you think about remote work? And let us know if your company is remote or not.
We are working remotely, and I've found that it works the best with engineering, because of the nature of engineering, which is like very analytical, and people need to spend a lot of time being focused, and it's very to just assemble everything on Git. But I'm more an advocate of the hybrid work.
Okay.
I still think that people do need to meet, because chemistry cannot be replaced, and sometimes the magic in a company happens when just people speak over the coffee between like the sales and the engineering and the product manager.
There is some chemical reaction.
Exactly, and then they start to connect the dots.
Yeah. I can agree with that hybrid model have this benefit. Okay, so I can agree with that hybrid does have this benefit. So what do you think are the pros and cons of remote work? Pros and cons, both, honestly.
So the main pros is you dramatically broaden the scope of people you can hire in a remote setup.
Right.
And when you're dealing with a scarcity of talent, especially in technology, that is a huge advantage. You can also decrease the cost, especially if you're in an expensive location like New York, San Francisco. Being able to hire people in Argentina or anywhere in the world is going to be way more cost effective. It's faster. So lots of advantage from a cost and speed of execution perspective. The cons depends on the type of business you're dealing with. There are businesses where your customers are their psychology are extremely localized. For example, if you need to understand the consumer behavior of an American who wants to buy second-hand car, and you're doing a car refinancing, and you need to partner with all the car reseller, well, there's no way around it. Nowhere in the world people can understand the US consumer behavior. However, if you're building GitLab which is one of the probably best example of successful remote company. Well, look, engineers in the world who are doing remote work, it's basically the same. Engineers can can be anywhere and have the equal understanding of the problem, the company, the users, and how everything comes together.
Right, right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, in the end, I would like you to give some advice to the aspiring entrepreneurs and tell them how can they save their jobs.
First-time founders, they're going to make a lot of mistakes. So if you're a first-time founder, like just be aware you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay. It's part of the game.
Okay. Yes. Completely.
The thing that I didn't realize is the majority of the mistakes you're going to do are actually so predictable and avoidable. And if you had someone who has been a founder, he would not make your company successful. But if he looks at what you do and the direction, the decisions you make, that person would be able to prevent at least half of the mistakes you're going to make.
Yeah.
I think one of the most underrated thing as a first-time founder is to get an advisor who has been in your shoes. So I'm not talking about an advisor who's like a bureaucrat and thinks like he knows how to run a company. No, someone who has been in your shoes and can help you save so much time and money. Because the most common mistakes of all first-time founders, they build too early and too much before really understanding what's the niche of the customer problem. And you know that very well. When you build too early and too much, it's very hard to pivot and it's very hard to be agile and fast.
Yeah.
Even if you have an amazing CTO and tech team who structure the code, no, it's still going to drag you down.
Yeah.
The second thing is spending the time on the strategy. So as a founder, you should spend maybe no longer than 5, maybe maximum 10% of your time thinking of the strategy.
Right.
However, if you have neglected that and you jumped into, let's build something because it's fun, your execution is not going to matter if the strategy is wrong.
Okay.
If you build a product for an audience you can't reach, if you build a product at a price point that is going to be unsustainable for you, if you build a product on something that you can't sell, doesn't matter. You can execute everything else perfectly. You're going to fail. And it's going to be very painful and expensive for you to learn this lesson. So my advice would be, don't neglect the 5 to 10% of time you need to really think of the strategy and then jump to the execution.
Makes sense.
And then I would say it's an advice that I never heard, and I wish people would told me. Have a strategy to manage your sleep. I can guarantee you, as a founder, maybe you were used to have like a very successful corporate life, and you think you know what it means to be to deal with stress. And
I've had so many years of sleepless nights.
Right, strikes a nerve.
Don't hit my pain points, please. I'll start crying.
We all will. And here's how I think most founders thought, including me. Many of them had successful career in the corporate life. They used to like be strong achiever, and they think, I can handle it as a founder. It's going to be, I don't know, maybe slightly more complicated, but no.
Yeah, it happens.
10 orders of magnitude harder. You think it's going to be a bit harder? No, it's going to be like 100x harder. And you're going to face problems that you have never seen and no one has ever seen, and no one can help you. You can't Google it, you can't search it, you can't ask ChatGPT. You will feel alone, and you will feel like the entire universe is conspiring against you.
Okay.
And in this time, you're going to struggle to find a good night of sleep. And that's where you need to have like a good strategy. What do I do when I find myself in this position? It happens to 100% of founders at any stage, earliest to latest stage.
Yeah.
And the way you deal with that is going to be a key driver and predictor in how you're going to overcome these challenges. You don't want to be the tired, exhausted founders who can't think at 100% of its capacity. You're going to need to have all your energy and intellectual creativity when you are in the worst possible position, because the entire company is going to look at you for inspiration and leadership. So manage your low point. The high point as a founder are higher than anything you've experienced in your life. The low points are going to be lower than anything you've experienced as well.
Now I'm worried about your comment that the entire company is looking at you, because most of the time I sleep at my chair. Right? So everybody looks at me like, CEO is sleeping. Why should they work? Even today, I came earlier. I had kind of sleepless night, right? I took around 4 to 5 hours. So I was sleeping on the beanbag in the morning, and then I came to my office. So many people were looking at me. No worries.
Aspiring founders listening to us, please do not take
I'm
this
used to
example.
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. We have to.
Look, it will happen to you, but just be ready and have a strategy to manage that, so that it remains the exception and not the norm.
Yeah. One question I forgot to ask, because you're working 14 hours a day. So how do you manage your social life and family life? I was going to end the podcast, but I thought, why not send this short to your wife?
It's tough. Being a founder is a life of sacrifice. You can't have like a great social life, successful in your company, 8 hours of sleep, stay in good shape, have friends, have your girlfriend happy, or have a girlfriend or have your wife happy. You're going to need to pick, especially if you're a first-time founder, because it's 10 times harder as a first-time founder. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, to be honest, my social life took a hit. Many friends don't understand what happened to me. They think either I don't know, transformed into a warm cave monster.
They also think you are arrogant now.
Do they?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes
I guess it depends
they feel
on your
like,
friends. I think my friends, they
yes.
So the thing is, when you're a founder, no one understands your life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They would think many things. They think you're crazy. They have no clue what you're doing. It's like when you're trying to cross the sea.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks the guy crossing the sea is crazy and whatever. It's only if you manage to cross the line and come to the other side that everyone is going to celebrate you. And yeah, that's the same with friendship. So I'm lucky. I have friends. They do understand what it means to be founder and how it shifts priorities. I have friends where I used to travel, like visit 3-5 countries every year, and I've stopped doing that. So they think that, well, I don't like them anymore. I have friends that I don't come into the parties, so they feel offended. And most founders lose a lot of friends in the journey.
Yeah.
And lots of founders lose girlfriends, but I don't like the kind of rosy image they picture on social media. Oh, yeah, everything is great and glamorous as a founder. No, it isn't. It's a cost.
Sometimes you get new as well. Just
exactly. So that's where I'm coming in. This is what you lose, but then you're going to develop new relationship, new friendship. You're going to meet other founders, and guess what? 99% of them are going the exact same journey. So it's just an evolution in your life.
Yeah. So your circle becomes change, right? Your circle is changing, and
So in a way, it becomes narrower in terms of people I see and meet on a regular basis. In another way, it becomes broader in terms of all the people I know, like the founders, the investors, VC, angels, etc. And try always to keep at least one person who can understand you and you can speak to.
Oh, that is the most important thing, and that is something which I miss the most. That one person.
It can be a founder, it can be very close
I'm gonna
friend,
cut this thing. Yeah, I'm gonna cut this thing from the video, but that is the most important thing I missed. Okay. So thank you so much, Sam, for joining. I hope the conversation was good and you
My
enjoyed
pleasure.
it.
I had a
And
great time. I hope it's going to
yeah, thank you.
inspire a lot of founders and prepare them to the game they're about to play.
Yeah, for sure thing. And I hope, because our conversation was very much related, and we didn't lose our focus. So I hope they are going to learn from the conversation. Thank you so much for the audience who are watching the episodes on the regular basis, and we'll keep bringing more tech stars to your screen. Keep subscribing. Thank you so much.